This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.
Welcome to episode 62 of Paranormal Dads. I'm your co-host, Andy.
I'm Pat.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm special guest Aaron.
Join us as we go in search of the world's monsters, myths, and mysteries right here on this special edition of Paranormal Dads. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this very special edition, off-location version of Paranormal Dads. And we have not 3, but 4 dads in the house today. We're joined by special guest Aaron. Thanks for being here, Aaron.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Always fun to have special guests on the show.
It's been too long since we've had a guest, so this is super fun.
And to have one as cool as Aaron.
Oh, well, come on.
The cool factor definitely goes up. Yeah, you came out
Well, you're saying too many nice things.
Yeah, you wait.
Well, we are actually recording this from inside our motel room on the border of Oklahoma and Arkansas. Now, you might be wondering, what are we doing in this part of the country? We're from Omaha, Nebraska. Well, Aaron kind of lives out here in this neck of the woods. To give you a little bit of context, we are here, we're here searching for werewolves, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we can elaborate, but essentially we are looking for a werewolf-type creature. A little backstory to how this all came about.
Yeah, let's back it up.
Because, you know, you tell, and this happened to me the other day. I told a friend, okay, we're going hunting for werewolf, not hunting, but searching for werewolf-type creatures on the border of Arkansas and Oklahoma, and she kind of looked at me side-eyed.
Well, you know, yeah.
You'll have that.
That's fair.
As one would.
So
Can you believe she looked at me weird? The audacity of this person.
You're looking for what? Werewolves?
So about a year and a half ago, I stumbled upon a podcast called Dogman Encounters Radio. You know, and we fall asleep listening to podcasts like this all the time. So I thought, okay, I'll give this a shot. Never heard of a Dogman, and you know, one episode turned into 12 turned into 100. I'm now 380 episodes into this. The show
Dude is putting out a serious amount of content if he's at 300 episodes.
It's crazy.
Well, and that's a testament to how many people are seeing this.
And he has a fairly selective topic too, right? It's dogmen that he's talking to. He's not going into ghosts. He's not going to UFOs. It's dogmen.
Yeah. You're not even going to go on about the Fresno Nightcrawler, bro? You're not even going to do that? No Fresno Nightcrawlers.
No, just Dogman.
No.
Now, what is a Dogman, you might ask? Well, it is a creature that basically has the giant body, 8 foot, 9 foot. Sometimes the sightings get that big, but it's the body of a wolf, head of a wolf. But the thing that makes these creatures unique is their ability to stand and run on 2 feet. All right, so to sum up, you know, you get into this podcast hosted by Vic Cundiff. He's the host of the Dogman Encounters Radio, 380 episodes in. And what this show is, it's a call-in show. It's first-hand eyewitness accounts of people who have seen up close and personal a creature that's become known as Dogman. And essentially what it is, it's a 7, 8, 9, 10-foot tall beast. Essentially, for all intents and purposes, we're talking about a werewolf. Only difference is many people don't believe this is the classic man on a full moon changing into a wolf. This is it's thought to be a flesh and blood creature. What sets this apart from a normal wolf is its size and the fact that it's seen on most occasions. Almost every single account has these things on 2 feet. Not only walking on 2 feet, but running on 2 feet. Sometimes upwards of 50, 60 miles an hour. They're known to be highly aggressive compared to Sasquatch. And the people who have had an encounter with these things, I'll put it this way. Many of the people calling into the show are outdoors people. They're hunters, fishers. They're guys who have spent their entire lives outdoors. They've seen every creature there is. And when they're recalling their story on this Dogman Encounters Radio, they're in tears. Grown men brought to tears who say they can't do the things that they love anymore. They can't go hunting. They can't go fishing. They can't go in the woods. They don't like to be outside at night because their encounter was that terrifying. Many of them will never be the same. A lot of them have had psychological problems and have resorted to counseling and all sorts of things since their sighting.
Do you know what it's called when you see a dog man walking on 2 legs?
Wait for it.
It's called a full moon walk.
Dun-dun-dun.
I regret nothing.
So you got these burly hunters out there who are out there, you know, like Andy says, coming to tears after their encounters. And you got the 4 of us out there tripping around in the dark with nothing but flashlights. And I think I have a personal alarm that I can pull that sets out about 130 decibels.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will help.
We got the bear, we had the bear mace.
We did have bear mace.
Cans of bear mace.
But we were listening
Luckily,
to that.
it was not needed.
We were listening to episodes of this show on the way down here, and some of the eyewitnesses they're listing off the dozens of guns that they brought with them to go into the woods. At
One
night.
guy with 6 guns, and he said he was underarmed.
I didn't bring enough.
How many hands do you have? You know,
I wish I had more hands so I could hold more guns.
We have flashlights and intuition. That's all.
Right.
That guy sees like Shiva, like the goddess that has like 8 arms. He's like, ooh.
we're taking the peaceful approach. We're hoping that we can look him in the eye and calm him down, and he'll be kind to us. Otherwise, these guys just need to outrun me, and I'll be the one that holds up the werewolf for a while as they can escape.
I don't like our escape strategy. I just see that sacrificing Pat is the worst idea.
I'm kind of like the red shirt in Star Trek, right? So I'm going to be the guy who's kind of offered to the gods while you guys make your escape.
Well, and like we said, we're on the border of Arkansas and Oklahoma. I don't think, maybe not quite yet, we want to give away our exact location.
No, not quite yet.
But the reason that we chose this particular location, I mean, dogmen are sighted in nearly all 50 states. But the reason we chose this particular location, it's kind of at the epicenter of a cluster of sightings over the years. I mean, we're talking several sightings within a 50-mile radius of where we're at. Now, our friend Aaron, who's joining us today, he lives, 30 minutes from here?
Yeah, not far at all.
And you're
Yeah,
kind of a
we're-
transplant because you were from Kansas City.
Kansas City, and then before that, Nebraska. Yeah. Yep.
So, but you were telling us, in our group text, in the weeks leading up to this, you were telling us how this area of the country, not just with dogman sightings, but just paranormal happenings in general, it's a hotbed over here.
Oh, it is. Yeah, there's paranormal activity that happens all over the state. I mean, you could just go. There's conferences that happen in Eureka Springs that. Every year just about. I think maybe since COVID they've stopped, but the UFO conference there. But yeah, it's all over. It's like in, I think, yeah. See, now my brain's getting fried a little bit.
Well, you got Eureka Springs,
right.
home to the Crescent Hotel, one of the most haunted hotels in the country.
Right.
A place I've visited.
Oh, that's
before.
right. Yeah, we were talking
It's
about that.
Just
Yep.
really cool little town, kind of built into the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
If you're from the Omaha area, I think we've talked about this before, but it's kind of like the whole town is kind of like the old market. It's a lot of little shops and small businesses and things like that, but also the Crescent Hotel, and they have bed and breakfast in the area and things like that. So a very cool place to visit.
Yeah, I've been to the Crescent Hotel and went on a ghost tour there, and it's quite a fascinating place. I mean, it is just, you look at it and it looks scary when you're walking up to it. The lighting in the place is all the really old lights, so the lighting's not very bright. You can stay in one of the rooms that is almost guaranteed to have a haunting or something happen to you in that room. But it's like $600-$700 a night for that particular room if you request it, and there's a waiting list for it typically.
Guaranteed or your money back, right?
Right.
You will be
Right, you will have something touch you in that room. It used to be an old insane asylum.
See,
It's always an asylum.
See,
Right?
that's the thing.
Always.
Any asylum that's ever been constructed, you even know building that thing someday it's going to be haunted. Like,
Yeah.
Right?
You're just laying the foundation for
I mean,
a future
a haunted
ghost hunt.
place.
Yeah.
You're like, well, it's a future haunted place,
Yeah.
so this feels good. It's one of those things, especially we talked about this too, like the energy that's being just cooked into those walls when you're dealing with mental illness. And this is real. Like, I mean, the notion of mental illness, and sometimes that mental illness can separate the veil, I think, a little bit. I mean, I've wondered if sometimes people do see things that are actually there that we can't see because, you know, we're hung up on this reality. But yeah, then it turned into a hotel.
Right. Oh, I agree with you completely on that side. It seems like there are some people that are just more in touch with a different reality, and you know that could make you eventually, you know.
Oh yeah.
Go. I mean.
Yeah. Fray the cord between
Right.
here and insanity. You know. And,
right. Yeah. And a lot of people that investigate paranormal activity over the years, I think, you know, they eventually sometimes they get tricked, or their mental stability is sometimes eventually questioned at some point.
Which
So
you could probably say that about us right
Right.
now with what we chose to do here in the wilds
Right.
of
You could
Oklahoma
say
and Arkansas. I guess with that we should probably dive into our first night.
Night one.
Night one.
Here we go. So night one took place last night, which I think this is coming out after the fact, but yesterday was October 20th. Interestingly enough, 5 years to the week since Eddie and Pat and I went on our Bigfoot expedition, not too far from, well, a couple hours from here, down in the down parts of Missouri in the Ozarks.
We can talk about that now.
We
We signed
can.
the non-disclosure in the 5 years.
And it was
is
a
up.
5-year disclosure.
Well, you actually had to sign something.
we
for that
we
trip.
did, yeah.
did.
We had to sign our life away. If we would have divulged the location before this week, I think people would have swung in and broken through our windows wearing black tactical gear, and
Exactly.
helicopters, and
Zip tied our arms together and taken us away.
But anyway, we thought, you know, in the spirit of nostalgia, we'd booked this trip 5 years to the week since then. But we arrived just yesterday. It was a good, 6-hour drive from Omaha, Nebraska, and we arrived a little bit tired, but really eager to hit the woods. So we met up with Aaron here at the motel, went to a state park, and thankfully, like from our camp spot, from our base camp, there was a trail right there. I mean,
Oh, it was
It
perfect.
was like a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely perfect.
Eddie said, "Here's a trail." So we loaded up our gear, wandered down into the woods, and wouldn't you know it, you asked if this was on purpose, Aaron. It was just sheer coincidence. Last night was actually a full moon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was beautiful.
What better night to hunt for a
I could have
wolf-like
swore
creature?
you planned it, right? Like,
And the thing about the day, it was cloudy all the way down from Omaha to Oklahoma. It was, I thought, well, there's no way we're going to see a full moon tonight, and it just kind of cleared up.
Yeah.
Once we hit the evening hours, a nice band of fog kind of rolled through the area, so
Yeah.
that just kind of
Perfect.
added to the atmosphere of the event. Just perfect night to be out.
Yeah, and the temperature was almost perfect too. It was a little on the warm side of cool. Like it was, we all came dressed for the cold and ended up at least shedding one layer of clothing.
Yeah, I didn't even wear a coat.
Yeah.
The entire
Pat
evening.
wasn't coated up. I was shirtless in the woods.
Eddie was sweating. He was just a big ball of stick.
I was sweaty.
I think we were all sweating by the end of the
oh
night.
yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely was.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a question.
So what we did initially is Pat stayed with the walkie-talkie at base camp. Eddie and Aaron and myself, we ventured down into the woods. And it went down quite a ways, kind of into what you would call a holler in these parts.
Holler.
This part of the holla. Well, we got to a point where the trail kind of stopped, and there's this giant log that acted as a bridge over the stream, and we thought, well, it's worth a shot. Kind of reminded me of that clip in the movie Goonies where they're shuffling across that log and the water's running down below.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
the Fratellis are chasing us hot on our heels.
Stop! Stop, Goonies!
It was a slippery log too. It wasn't like a totally like dry log.
Yeah, and it was fairly narrow. I mean, it was wide enough for us, but I had no doubts that it was going to be able to hold our weight as we went across. But it was a little sketchy.
I'm glad no one slipped in and got their feet wet, because that would have made for an awful ride for walk back to the
Yeah.
campsite.
Especially since we were in your car. so-
Right.
And also, each one of us had about 3 cameras we were carrying.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, and all the
yeah.
gear, right?
But the 3 of us get down there across the log, and we get to this little clearing, and Eddie's like, what's that? What's that? And immediately, I'm thinking Dogman. And I'm looking left, right, and watching my 6. And,
Yeah.
and he says, no, turn off the flashlight. Something's glowing on the ground.
Yeah.
And so we turn off our flashlights, and sure enough, it looks like there's twinkling. There's glow, like little almost like a bluish glow to it, wasn't it?
Specks, like little bluish specks, like almost stars, but
Yeah.
like on the ground.
It looked kind of green to me.
Yeah,
It had like a green hue to it.
Yeah, but clear as day, and they would like wink in and out.
Right.
It
was the strangest thing.
I thought initially, before I said anything, that it was like an artifact of my eyes. Like my eyes were adjusting, and maybe I was like having like a stroke. I'm like, well, I'm 44. It's about time for something weird to happen, or even like an ocular migraine. If y'all know what that is,
I do.
For a split second, did you hope it was fairies though? Forest fairies?
For a half, which here's some debate. I would still call that on some level the neighborhood of paranormal, at least for us, because like we don't have this thing.
It's certainly foreign to us from where we're from.
And so people who live here and from here, they're like, you dummies, you know what that is.
I've never seen it before. I've been here 2 years, but I've never seen those before.
That's crazy.
But were they worms? Did we determine that's what it was?
The technical term, I think, is glowworms. I mean, that's like not the scientific name for them.
But the strange thing was they almost looked like little centipede kind of things.
They did. They had like legs going down the entire side of them. That was a shell, and we just couldn't see the underside.
And they had like a segmented body, almost like a pill bug.
Right.
It looked like.
It was almost like the bioluminescent something.
Yeah, it didn't look like your stereotypical worm, how you would define a worm.
But spoiler, that's what it was. These little tiny bugs that had a little like protuberance off their head, and that was the little thing that was lighting up, I think. It was a little antenna. It had a little tiny little light on the end of it, essentially.
So we got down there and we're having so much fun, and suddenly it feels magical because we discovered forest fairies.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It did.
And we
felt really magical.
And then we start to have malfunctions with the walkie-talkies, and we're like, "Oh, great! Pat got kidnapped. The Dogman
I think it was actually me playing with my walkie-talkie, and
I kept radioing in.
And somehow we had a technical difficulty there, and we kind of lost communication with each other. And Andy's texting me on my phone, and I didn't catch that right away. And
just scaring us to death, basically.
So we're not so far out into the wilderness that we still had a cell signal. We could text back and forth, but the guys were good enough to come back and get me. By then, the campfire we had built, part of the reason I stayed behind was just to keep an eye on the fire, because Smokey the Bear would be very disappointed in us if we walked away from that fire. So by then, the fire, which wasn't a huge fire anyway, had kind of subsided, and so we put it out with some water, and I geared up, and we all went out after that.
So then we backtracked down the same route, over the same log, through the same glowworm forest. And then we get to a part of the forest where we're not even sure if we're on a trail anymore. It's not clearly marked. We've watched enough Survivor Man episodes that we don't want to go too far off the beaten path and become casualties where they have to call on the rescue chopper. But I remember the scariest part for me was, I think, the scariest part for you, Eddie, because it was at that same moment where it's quiet enough and we kind of we're freezing there, and he's like, "Wait, what's that?" And I hear it too, and it sounds like a deep grumble. It sounds like a deep guttural, almost like if you get too close to a dog that's being protective over its food, and it's like a deep growl to get away. Well, that was short-lived, thank goodness, because after a couple seconds, we noticed it was the roar of an airplane engine that was approaching overhead.
Right.
And but Eddie, I remember Eddie, his heart was beating out of his chest. He was like, "Oh, thank God!" He's like, I thought it was it. I thought this was it. This was the Dogman. But no, it was just a 747.
Just flying overhead.
It had that deep, low kind of like rumble, and I'm like, "Is that a growl?" Like it sounded like Yeah, it caught me for a second.
Yeah, at the time I had my audio recorder on. I had my headphones on, and I did hear the low grumble, the low growl, and it did sound almost animalistic when I first heard it. And then I pretty quickly, could recognize that it was a jet.
Yeah.
But since I had the headset on, I think I figured it out quicker than you guys did. And so you guys were obviously getting a little worked up because we just didn't know what it was at first.
This is the key, man, to doing this paranormal stuff. Is like you gotta keep your ears and eyes open for anything that. I mean, you don't go looking for Dogman unless you plan on seeing Dogman. Why would you be out here otherwise? But the ability to separate your surroundings and know that like we said before, everything is not paranormal, then it wouldn't be paranormal. So for that split second, it's like, oh wow, I'm hearing what might be a growl, and yeah, surprise, it's just a big plane.
Was there anything that caught you off guard, Aaron? Like, was there anything that was better than expected, or I know for a while there you were down kind of near the stream looking for tracks.
Yeah, I walked. I separated just a little bit and went down and looked for tracks. Didn't see anything. I put that trail. I'm anxious to see what that. Well, anxious probably not the right word, but I'm excited to see what the trail cam will bring. We got to go pick that up sometime today and see what's on there, because I put it right next to the water, pointing at the waterfall and that log we walked over, in hopes that maybe at least if anything we're going to get some people walking by, maybe a deer or two. And who knows, maybe the elusive Dogman himself.
Maybe a teenager mooned us.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe another full moon.
Another full moon.
Right.
2 full moons.
Yeah. Overall, I think the night was a success just in terms of getting out into nature. And I think that's another thing that can be brought into the subject is just being together and out in nature and doing something fun rather than sitting at home on a
Wednesday.
night. Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's like at its, even at its surface, we went out and had about a 4 or 5 hour adventure with our friends and got to, be in nature and go night hiking, which is a fun way to do it.
Yeah, not a lot of people do that. There's not a lot of people that go out and they hike it in the middle of the night. And it's just a totally different experience from hiking during the day. And you get to use all those technical toys too, the night vision cameras,
there was no shortage of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, we had our plenty of equipment. Yeah.
Lots of tech.
Lots of tech. Yeah.
I particularly liked, we had exited. We had kind of gone to the point where the trail was more or less gone, and we were just kind of like just hacking our way through the forest, and then when we kind of came back around and went back up a hill that ran along beside this river, or like this body of water that the waterfall was coming off of, we come across this. What was it called? It was like the Ghost Raccoon Trail.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
Ghost Coon Trail.
Yeah. And then we got to walk on that, and then that's
it's like you got to take that, right?
You got to go down that one, and then it opened up in this big clearing again, and we had that great shot of the moon with the clouds in front of it, and we had basically gone on the other side of the holler.
Yeah.
And so, like you were saying, it was crazy getting that perspective.
That was the amazing thing, because when we very first started, before we even started trekking down into the valley where the creek was, we had just come out of our campsite and started our hike, and you look down into this holler, and you can see for several miles, but it was just this beautiful sight of the moon and the fog, just kind of low fog into the holler. You could see these huge power lines that just kind of run the entire length of the holler. And we realized that we had trekked, like 2 or 3 lengths of those power lines. We'd gone that far, which when we first saw it that night, I thought, there's no way we would be able to go over there, because we saw a light over there, and we were wondering, well, what is that?
Yeah.
And then we realized we're at the spot where we saw that light.
Yeah.
And we were able to determine it was just like a power box,
utility box,
some kind of a utility box there. But it was just amazing how far we had gone in what felt like a fairly short time, but just when you don't know where you are and you're trekking up and down hills, you can cover some distance. I think it was more of an up and down thing for us than it was a distance, because I think all night we walked maybe about, at least for me, I only walked about 4 miles.
Yeah, we definitely did more Z elevation than we did XY traveling.
So
on the plane.
There's a little, was that algebra for you?
There you go, kids. Think about that one.
I don't know much about algebra, but I forgot the wolf urine. That's one thing I want to bring
And
up.
you forgot the pee.
Yeah.
I forgot the pee. This was several months ago. Even like backtrack a little bit further. This trip was initially supposed to take place in March or April.
Yeah.
So I came up, I was getting the post winter, restlessness where I was just ready to get out and do something fun. And on a whim, I decided we'd take this trip. Eddie and Pat couldn't get off work in time, but Aaron was available. And so Aaron and I had all the details squared away for this very same trip, but as fate would have it, my back went out on me the day before we were set to go, and I was in no shape to make the drive. So we postponed it, and here we are with all 4 of us. And in hindsight, I'm glad, too, because this is just more fun.
This works out better, without a doubt. And you get to bring me into your circle friends and the Paranormal Dads, which is absolutely fantastic.
It's good to have you here.
Oh, well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, this is great. This is exciting.
Yeah, I'm a fan too. I listen to your podcast every time you guys put out a new one. So it's yeah.
Well, Andy's talking about the wolf
urine. Yeah, I bought it back in March when we were initially supposed to come here.
Yeah.
But speaking of baiting the critters, we were out, about this time we were actually hearing some coyotes off in the distance, and Andy thought, well, I wonder if I should play back like a YouTube video of some coyotes, just see if we can get a rise out of them.
Yeah.
And we did get a rise, but it wasn't from the coyotes. We were actually, I think, fairly nearby another campsite, and there were some dogs in that campsite, and they heard the coyotes that Andy was playing on his phone. And I'm glad those dogs were probably on leashes, because they probably would have come to us and let us know how disappointed they were in us for playing.
Yeah, they're not a fan of YouTube
tunes.
They're not a fan of YouTube clips. Those dogs.
No. They were instantly growing. And, you could hear them in the distance, and we're like, "Oh crap, we better run."
That was my first thought. As I hope they're on a leash.
Right.
This does show Andy and Pat. You guys were like, "Well, we're done now.
We're done. We're done. We start walking.
Yeah.
And like my first instinct was to go deeper into the woods. I was like, "They can't find us here."
Into the woods we go.
Exactly.
I was kind of stretching and saying, well, I'm bushed. Let's call it a night.
Well, yeah. I mean, it just gets to be a thing. And we, as a disclaimer, we want to encourage everybody. This is a fun thing to do, but also be careful. Yeah. If you decide to do these things, make sure at least you have a good sense of, you know where you're at, and don't break any laws, and be smart about it. I mean, we were definitely trying to stay within the framework of legality for sure.
And we didn't want to make any...
I think we did. I think we did.
Yeah. I turned off the YouTube sound, the coyote howling, as soon as I knew those dogs weren't very pleased with it. But
we're having a good time.
We knew there were people camping around. We did do our best to keep the noise down, and we didn't try not to bother anybody.
Yeah, we kept it pretty quiet.
But I mean, with the wolf urine, I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing that I forgot to bring it. I don't really know why I bought it. I was trying to think of things, off the wall techniques to lure in a Dogman, and I thought, well, wolf urine. I know, according to research, some farmers and ranchers, I guess, use it to they'll put a little wolf urine on the perimeter of their property, basically to keep away critters, so that coyotes and stuff, so that they don't mess with their livestock, because wolf being more of an alpha type predator, it's a deterrent, almost like an invisible dog fence, if you will. But then I was thinking, okay, so if we did have the wolf urine, if putting that in an area that we're looking for Dogman, is that gonna make all the bunnies and rabbits and squirrels and raccoons, aka its food source, is it gonna make those small critters go away? Therefore, the Dogman goes away, is the scent of wolf urine, would the Dogman view that as a threat, as a territorial threat, like, I'm the alpha male of this area, let me go see what's on my turf.
Right.
It could go either way.
Yeah, you're right. You're thinking, I'm going to attract this thing, but you might be attracting it with the wrong reason.
With the wrong
Before
intent.
you know it, you're fist fighting a wolf man, and you don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that.
You're going to lose.
The messaging before this, I loved how Eddie, you said, if we see one, I'm just gonna tackle him.
Run right at him.
Gonna run right at him.
I don't care anymore. Everybody's like, and I ran away. I'm like, I run towards. Say nice things about me at my funeral.
Eddie, you're not a fighter. Eddie would give him a hug and turn him into the good side.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I turn him around.
Love.
There's so many of these things. I'm at the point in my life where I just want to definitively see these things, and then if that means running head first into it, then that's what I'm prepared to do.
Yeah, I'm at that point too. I mean, to piggyback off what you said, I've seen things which why I'm interested in this topic and in this subject, and now and as to your point, you said last night about now looking at the cryptids and investigating those. I really want to see one of these too.
Yeah.
It's, you hear about them, you hear the eyewitness reports, and I just want to be one of those eyewitnesses. That's like the goal, and I think that's why we're out here, right? So
I mean, the amazing thing is so many stories out there. The one guy has 300 episodes on his podcast alone, and there's other podcasts that solely focus on dogmen, and there's other paranormal podcasts that cover dogmen eyewitness stories as well. A lot of people report these. Wisconsin's another hotbed of Dogman or even werewolf type sightings. You got the Beast of Bray Road and other places like that.
Yeah, I've got the Michigan Dogman, a well-known one up in those parts, and that's maybe another chapter for next year. But it's
Pat, you see the Mothman, you're not going to run right at him. You know what I mean? You're going to see the two big red eyes looking at you.
No.
I thought the red meant love.
Yeah, exactly. Like hearts
Isn't
and
that the
valents.
color of love?
It's the color of love.
I can just picture the goes slow motion and the romantic music comes on and Eddie's sprinting towards it and he jumps into the Dogman's arms and it catches Eddie and cradles him almost like a groom carrying the bride over the threshold.
There it is.
You know?
Oh,
And then starts eating
match
me like
made
a
in
cob of
heaven.
corn.
And you're all buttered up from the sweat.
Chomp, chomp.
Eating me like a
You're all
watermelon
buttered up
slice.
from the sweat.
That's not exactly what I
my.
had pictured.
This is a corn dog man.
Oh. There it is.
Yeah, we were also talking yesterday about this type of investigation and how it's kind of special for us because, like if we did a ghost investigation, you're basically staying in one building. You're playing with some gadgets, your electrical meters and things like that. Your spirit box and usually you keep the lights off when you're doing a ghost hunt, but being out in the wilderness adds a whole new level to the fun, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of creepy, it's kind of exciting, and it's an experience that people like us living in the city, for the most part, don't always get to enjoy.
It's more exercise than a ghost hunt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
There's a psychic, spiritual component to this too. There's a thing, I believe this, and this is where I get a little bit, airy-fairy here, but like when we go off into these environments that we're not normally a part of, and like our bodies, our spirits know that for our day-to-day, we don't normally put ourselves in these positions. Like to us, being in this is a new thing. But to everything out there, everything up unto the birds and bugs and the glowworms and maybe even the wolfman, we're all not supposed, air quotes, to be there. Like we're outside of our element. But in that, there's this energy share disruption thing that happens. And I think that we kind of take that on us like an ephemera in a way. So as we go about, like tonight, night 2, we're going to be having almost a little bit of that stick to us as we come into those environments and then go and do those things. I think these things tend to build as we go around and do these things. So I'm excited.
You're talking about the spiritual side of things. There was a moment yesterday when you kind of stepped away from us, and I saw you doing your grounding thing like you did during the Bigfoot.
Yeah.
You kind of go off. You actually sit there on the ground.
Yeah.
And what was that moment for you? What were you thinking?
I try to shut off as much of my own thoughts, and I just try to kind of just exist in that space for a second. And I just kind of just let whatever impressions kind of come on me that are on me. The funny part was kind of weird. I felt like behind us there was a trail, and I didn't know that to be the case, but I felt like behind us there's more trail. But sitting there specifically, it was just more about just kind of like being part of that space, just kind of like letting go of like what I brought into there, and we get into this part, like we all have thoughts and troubles and things that we carry with us. And I just wanted to kind of just let that just kind of all go and just kind of like just ground myself in that moment. So yeah, there was definitely like a being part of the environment. That's kind of what I wanted to do.
And early on in the night when we first entered the woods, we did kind of like a little spiritual ritual of sorts. Aaron carries some Palo Santo on him, and you lit it and you blow out the flame and you kind of wave the smoke around, almost equivalent of setting a good intention, setting good vibes, almost like sage if you're going to use sage to smudge an area. But we verbally said out loud on the edge of the forest, we mean no harm to the Dogman. We're unarmed. We're just curious. We love mysteries. We're out there for the spirit of adventure, and we hope that energy would be reciprocated to us in the form of a peaceful sighting. So I think it's important, as we all know, through a law of attraction and manifestation and those principles, the energy that you put out is usually what is mirrored back to you. So, and on some level, even a creature like Dogman would be able to feel the intentions of somebody, We don't come across as hostile gentlemen in the first place, I don't think. But
oh yeah, most definitely. There's an energy that is that people carry with them, and the Dogman being a paranormal cryptid. There's two thoughts on that: whether he's an actual, real, flesh and blood animal, or he's the paranormal
Like a
thing
spiritual.
that can just I'm sure there's a level of spiritual, and even animals in general. If you think about your dogs, think about your cats, they can always sense what your mood is. And so just going through that ceremony with the Palo Santo, which is for those who don't know, it's a hardwood from Peru that shaman use down there quite frequently. And if you go down into Peru and you go through the hotels, they burn it everywhere. In every single building that we went into when I was down there, they were burning Palo Santo, and that's when I was first introduced to it. But it also has a real kind of relaxing smell to it. So just on the physical side, it brings your emotion level. If you're negative energy, it just brings your emotion level down, So it's I burn it at my house. My son Asher, he's always like, "Dad, burn the Palo Santo." He's always asking for it.
It's very chilling.
Yeah, and it will just relax an environment. It'll put you in the right frame of mind to hopefully, experience something. So.
Well, and it was good that it had a good scent to it because, after Paranormal Dads eating fast food all day, it counted out some other smells that were going on.
Man alive. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry so much.
You need to apologize to the forest, Eddie.
Oh, my.
It is what it is.
I honestly didn't smell anything, but I heard a lot.
At least you're using all of your senses,
Right?
Aaron.
Yeah, exactly. Be aware, everybody. But yeah, so now we're sitting here. It's the day after. We have night 2 coming up on us tonight. We have some locations planned. And
May involve a cemetery.
Yeah. So all of this is centered around more sightings of Dogman. And we're pretty excited for that. So it's day 2.
Let's go on to night 2.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Welcome to segment 2 of our Dogman Expedition 2021. And we have to catch you up to speed on an action-packed day that we had yesterday. Yesterday was Thursday?
Yesterday was Thursday.
Yeah. It's funny how you're on vacation and all your days get twisted around because you're on vacation time.
And we have to probably quick review what we caught on night 1 via the trail cam that Aaron set up, super intelligently set up a trail cam at a spot of interest on the trail that we hiked.
It was actually set up right next to the giant log that acts as a bridge that helps people walk across over the stream.
Yeah.
And top-notch trail cam, by the way, Aaron.
Yeah.
I mean, that footage was high quality.
Yeah, it was just a birthday gift from my mom. So thank my mom for that one. It was right next. Yeah, like you said, it was right next to the creek, and we ended up catching something rather interesting. And I don't know how much we want to go into it, but
let's do it.
Yeah, all right. So it was it was set there. We picked it up at probably 9 o'clock the next morning. Then we brought it back later that day and reviewed the footage. And on the footage, there's something there of like a unique nature, right? And it was to our surprise that we caught it. I wasn't my expectations were low, but my hopes were high, right?
Well, yeah.
And
there's a couple things there, right?
There are.
So we actually got it closer to noon.
Was that time we?
Yeah,
because
Andy, the time tag on when Andy was getting.
That's right.
Noon,
it was
because we had lunched before, I think,
right.
and then we went and got it.
That's right.
But I'm just waiting for someone to be like, "You said 9 and it says noon on the timestamp. You lie. You're all full of crap."
Right.
And so we get this trail cam footage, and you're looking at it on the little tiny screen, and it's hard to tell what's what. You can see there's people and things like that. But the thing that's so funny is, I actually expected to be seeing more people on that, and there was probably what would we say 3 or 4
yeah, there's like 4 groups of people
total.
I'd have to look again to verify that number, but it was there was maybe 4 groups that came by at when daylight started happening. And we the point that we dropped it off, and I think this is kind of important too, to when we picked it up at 4:30, when we looked at the footage that was right around 4:20 after we picked it up, there was nothing that happened. Nothing at all between those names. And then a little raccoon came in, a little bit of something came up into the screen, and then the next time the camera went off again, and there was more fog or something.
It looks like upside down rain.
Right.
My best description of it was it looks like a geyser. almost like a geyser went off. The speed.
That's a good description.
The
I think.
speed at which this, what looks to be some sort of vapor, some sort of water vapor, some sort of thing, shoots up, like with speed. It's not like it's a fog where it's slowly building and you're seeing the fog start.
Because at first it was hardly even there. It was like there was nothing there, and then it's fog, and then it like shoots up. I mean, it was very much almost like an apparition or a phantom. I mean, it kind of looked like that. I mean, it wasn't the shape of a person or anything like that, but I've never seen a mist or a fog move like that. And I think it's safe to say we've never done so much research on fog in such a short amount of time.
Right, yeah, that's all I've been doing today.
Aaron's a fog expert.
Yeah, how fog forms, the temperature at which it forms. It's based on dew point, and that dew point, as the temperature of the air and the water start to gradually meet, that is when fog forms, I believe. That's what I've read so far. So I don't know that it is fog, because if it was fog, the whole place would have started, that whole area would have started to fill up with fog. And right before that, you don't see anything in the in the viewpoint of the camera. So it's all of a sudden it's just this mist, or some sort of paranormal mist is what it seems like to me.
And it has direction. It's
right.
like, it's almost like dominoes, because it comes from left to right. It's like tick 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 tick. It doesn't like all of a sudden come up all at once like you would suspect fog to do or something. It has like almost like a direction to it. It's just kind of like, and the speed alone. I mean, when you got, and hey, go to Facebook.com. You paranormal crazies, go to Facebook and check out our Facebook page. We have the videos posted. You can actually see what you think. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. It looks like a geyser went off on this otherwise quiet little bubbly stream.
Yeah, it's very unusual. I mean, either way, because the paranormal mist is, or whatever it is kind of floating into the camera lens as you're looking at it. It's weird. It is definitely weird.
It's bizarre, but this is what happens. You've seen it on TV shows. Maybe some of the listeners have seen this happen to them personally, but you go in search of whatever, pick a mystery. You go in search of Bigfoot, you go in search of UFOs, you go in search of whatever. Paranormal things can tend to happen. We're not out in the forest, trying to deal with ghosts or anything, from the spirit world, but sometimes odd things happen that can't be explained, almost like the universe lumps all the mysteries into one category, and you look for one and you stumble upon another. Speaking of which, we're here at the motel. That's where we're recording from, and some of the staff have been so nice and so chatty, and they've slowly come to figure out why we're here and what we're doing, and so they stop us in the hall and they ask us questions about what we found and what we're up to, and getting to chatting with them, we've actually uncovered a couple local legends, if you will. Some people around here have heard of Dogman, and actually one creature that we had not even heard of, right, Pat?
Yeah, one of the ladies we spoke with, she had never heard of Dogman before, so she was kind of surprised that's what we were looking for. But she did tell us there is a deer woman that she has heard of and has been told about, since she was a kid. So apparently what a deer woman is it's a deer spirit of the Eastern Woodlands and Central Plains tribes, but is also popular among the contemporary Native American people of Oklahoma. And so what it is it's sometimes depicted in animal form, other times it's a human form, and sometimes it's a mixture of the two. And that's kind of the way the person we spoke with yesterday described it. Kind of like the top part of it is a woman form and the bottom part of it is a deer. And so among the people in Oklahoma, it's often portrayed as like a boogeyman sort of role. It's said to trample people to death, especially girl-crazy young men or disobedient children.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
So, and she even said, like, the elders in her family would often say, especially during powwows, it seemed to revolve around powwow events that they would have. But the kids would have to be inside at night, before dark during the powwows for fear of being taken away by the deer woman. So,
or straight up trampled.
Yeah.
And she has antlers? Or do we not know?
Well, I'm guessing since she's female, I would assume she does not, and especially.
Go to school, Andy.
I'm so not a
Read
hunter.
a book.
When we say we're out here hunting dogmen, we have no weapons. I don't hunt. I don't. You're right.
And
Female.
they describe the top part as a female human. So
I mean, it could be a transgender
maybe.
deer
So like
person. I don't
Like
know.
a fawn. I mean, that mystical creature. What was Thumnus from Chronicles of Narnia? Is that?
He's a fawn.
Was he a fawn? So like a fawn, but a female version of
So
that.
we're talking
Is
top
that-
half human, bottom
half
half deer,
deer.
or top
Yeah.
half deer, bottom half human.
I think
It's a valid.
It's like the
I would
duckbill
think
platypus.
the top half would
Right.
definitely be the woman. At least in my mind, that would be the more. If you just had this big deer head on a woman's body, I
just saying,
suppose
you have
maybe.
minotaurs, which are the
Yeah.
bull. The top half is a bull.
I
Bottom
mean,
half is
if
a
you
guy.
can have a guy and a motorcycle joined together in commercials these days,
right. Have you seen Turbo Teen, that amazing '80s cartoon where the kid gets splashed with like warm water? And he's like, "Oh no, I'm turning into a Corvette!" And he turns into a car. And his friends are riding in him, and they're like, "This is the best." It's the craziest.
One of the cool things about the deer woman that I read about is the deer woman might seduce men, especially adulterous or promiscuous men, and either lead them to their deaths or lead them to wither in lovesickness. So the deer woman, she's looking out for things and taking care of business if it needs to be taken care of, especially if you're a kid at a powwow and you're being naughty.
So philanderous dudes and girl crazy dude boys.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Takes
so-
care of business.
But they were also telling us here at the hotel about a university not far from here, and boy, I don't even have the name of it in front of me. I think it was like Northwestern.
NSU, right? NSU.
NSU. It was a university in Oklahoma that they often have paranormal type events and almost like conventions, Bigfoot conventions and probably ghosts and things like that. So that will definitely be something we'll be checking out to see what's around here. But it was kind of cool that we've been welcomed at this hotel. I mean, just walking up here to record today, there were like 2 or 3 different people that stopped Eddie and I in the hallway asking us about different ghosts and different things. So it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, they're very friendly here. I mean, like incredibly friendly.
Well, as yesterday proceeded, the highlight of the day, we've got a doozy for you. I'm happy all 4 of us are here and we don't have any serious wounds.
Yeah.
After yesterday's escapade. So by yesterday afternoon, our day excursion was to go to a town called Wesley, Arkansas, and it was right along Highway 74. Took us almost an hour to get there.
Yeah.
But the reason that we chose to go to this location is because back in '99 and 2000, there were 3 sightings of a dogman creature by the same husband and wife along the same stretch of road. Now, the highway, on one side of the highway, you have a white farmhouse, and on the other side of the highway, you have an old cemetery. And we found out it is an old cemetery.
Yeah, old with an E at the end of it. It is old.
Old with an E at the end of it. Ye old cemetery.
Exactly.
Cemetery.
I mean, some of them stem back to the mid 1800s. A lot of the tombstones are so
Even early 1800s. Yeah.
Early
1818.
a lot of them, the dates weren't even visible anymore. They've been rubbed
some of the
away
older
and
ones.
weathered away.
I mean, some of those headstones were only like a foot tall. Like they were nothing more than a rock hardly, and you couldn't even hardly read the writing on it anymore. But we went there, and again, this farmhouse. One of the reports of the farmhouse was that this couple saw a dogman leap off the porch, barrel roll, and chase their car, and it was sighted 2 other times right in that vicinity. So we're right there at ground zero. We're walking around the cemetery. Down below the cemetery, so stemming off the side of the cemetery is a very steep, hilly cliff. It's almost like a ravine that leads down to a stream, river? I don't know what I'd call it.
Yeah, like a creek.
Really
river.
wide creek.
Wide
It's
creek.
pretty wide, but it's not a river. It's too shallow.
Yeah, it's more like a creek.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm telling the guys, I'm like, we got to find a way to get down there. There could be prints. We could look for prints in the soft soil near the creek, but it's so steep. I don't see a way down. I mean, it's not. This is not a state park. There's no hiking trails. There's nothing. So Aaron,
Right?
yeah, tell them what you found.
Right.
Aaron.
So Andy gave a directive, and I was going to find a way to get down there. I mean, that's just the way I am. And so I kept walking down, just further down the cemetery line, just looking for like a trail or where the side of the cliff kind of slopes down and you can walk down to it. And I found what I thought was a trail or an old trail, and I walked down it. And I'm looking around, and all of a sudden I look down to see how I'm going to get down, how we can get down the cliff. And there's an old rope there. And I'm like, what is this rope doing here? And it was fairly old. And I look up, and it's tied to a tree. And then Eddie's up at the top. I'm like, Eddie, there's a rope. and then he was at the top. And then I see that there's another rope. Just follow the line follow the rope. And there was another rope at the very top of it that was tied to another tree.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, the one rope was like already kind of like, oh my gosh, somebody has thought of this before. And then the second rope, for some reason, that was almost like, okay, this is like a legitimate. Someone's done this,
right?
Like,
on purpose.
This has been
to
thought
get down,
out, right?
Yeah.
And hidden. The rope was like underneath a bunch of leaves. Like this sucker was, and maybe over time that's just what happened, but not a new rope by any means.
Yeah, it still had its integrity intact. I'd say the rope did, not that.
Yeah,
it wasn't crumbling apart.
Yeah, it was still strong, still nicely tied, and it definitely seemed secure enough to lower ourselves down the edge of this sheer cliff.
I mean, it wasn't straight up and down. I don't know. It seemed at times steeper than a 45-degree angle, though. I mean, we short of rappelling down. I mean,
there was a part that was straight 90. There was
towards the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, it was like a 6-foot drop maybe. So, but still. And then even then, your footing wasn't fully flat, so you had to like land in a way that you weren't going to like twist your ankles and shatter your knees
and all the rocks on the side of the cliff,
crumbly
rocks, and that's the way a lot of the land is around here. Is they're just tiny loose rocks all over Oklahoma, well, all over Arkansas, at least my property, and then into Oklahoma, and you slip on those, roll an ankle real easy, let alone going down the side of this ledge that we were going down.
Yeah,
and it was real easy to slip and fall.
So Eddie, you were the first to go down, right?
I was the first to go down. I just realized this.
There was a small part of you that wanted to Tarzan swing off of that and do a backflip into
just
the
like
creek.
kick off like in Cliffhanger was Sylvester Stallone. Just be like, I got this. But I didn't.
Throw an ice pick into the side of the other wall.
And have my holding on my Pat's hand. Don't let go, buddy. I remember my Boy Scout training, and I wrapped the rope around like my waist and my booty, and then I was like letting it out on the left side, like boop, 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 And at first I didn't do that, and then I'm like, I can't rely on hand strength alone here. So just kind of slid down, came down to the bottom, and like you said, it wasn't as bad as it looked initially, but also we hadn't done that before, so we didn't know what we were dealing with, and so got down to the bottom without a lot of drama on my end. And then second was Aaron.
Right, yep, right? I went down. Came down. Yep, just lowered myself down. And then I didn't wrap the rope around my backside like you did, and I used my hand strength, and it did hurt.
Yeah. And when I went down, I just kind of tried to, I remembered some videos that I had seen on people who climb rock walls and stuff, and they're always like, just lean back, like trust, push out from the wall, trust the strength of the rope. The rope felt sturdy. So I lowered myself down, and I had, it's an adrenaline rush. For the most part, we're kind of city boys. I hate to say it, but we're not country people. We're not Indiana Jones characters. And you get down to the bottom, and you just look left and you look right, and you see this creek, and I mean, it's just so picturesque. And it's like, what? Holy crap! What did we just do? You're looking up the ravine we just came down, and it was kind of magical in a way.
Yeah, it was very magical. There's spots like that all over Arkansas, which is why I love living here. But that was really cool, though. I had never been in the scenario, that type of environment that we were in yesterday here so far. To find what we found, I can go into what we found, or so we get down at the bottom. Or no, Pat comes down after
Pat
that,
comes
right?
down.
And then it was my turn.
Right? Yeah.
Pat,
and I'm going to go on the record
right.
to say that this was not my idea. I was not down with this idea.
No.
At all.
I knew it was going to end poorly. And it did. So I grab onto the rope, and I knew this was not going to go well, and pretty much fell the 20 feet or rolled down the side of the hill.
It was a controlled fall.
It was a controlled fall. Burned my hand on the rope. It was not a good a good thing. We kind of made the comment yesterday. We were actually doing a Facebook Live thing on Andy's channel, and I made the comment that it was kind of like the old Mutual of Omaha shows, the Wild Kingdom shows back in the 80s when Marlon Perkins would send Jim Fowler out of the helicopter to, wrestle the alligator or whatever. He'd stay up there in the helicopter, and that's what I wanted to do. I want to stay in the helicopter, just kind of, keep the top view, keep a lookout over the proceedings going down. And it was, when we're out on these things, it's kind of like we're 12 again. And so there's peer pressure and things like that.
Right.
Oh, no.
It's not that
Come
bad,
on, man. You can do it.
You can do it. Climb down.
Take one for the team, buddy.
Though. We were encouraging. And then,
Well,
anyway,
and when
I made it down.
When you finally touch down, that's all I'll
Yeah.
say. When you finally touch down and his whole body hit the ground, I'm just thinking, okay, let's check for major injury.
Yeah.
Where's he bleeding from?
Right.
Can you move your arm, Pat? Move. Blink twice if you can hear us, Pat.
Well, already I was thinking, how am I going to get back up?
That was my
that was my next concern. But
Yeah.
but we'll go on.
Because
We'll go on.
that was our thought too. Because coming down was one thing, but then at the bottom you look up, and I'm thinking like the same thing.
Yeah, it's steep.
There's no other way to get out of this thing.
This is the rope.
We
We gotta
have
use
to
the rope.
climb back up.
Yeah.
But
when
you
I
guys
had-
tell us what you found and I'll never forget when I heard you guys say this. I was like, "There's a what down there?"
So I landed there first, and I looked left, looked right, and then I see the mouth of this gigantic. It's big. I mean, not gigantic, but it's large. You could park a car in there.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the size of a garage, if not bigger.
Yeah. Cave. And I'm like, okay, this is why the rope is here, clearly. So I yell up to you guys, like,
Right.
I don't remember what I
There's
said.
a cave.
Yeah, it was like very just surprise and shock. There's a cave down here.
I'm thinking Goonies immediately.
Right? Yeah.
I'm thinking because we already crossed that log, yesterday, like the Goonies did. Now
Yeah.
there's a cave, and I'm like, okay, the Fratellis are going to be after us. Where's a sloth?
Exactly. And so, yeah, when we all got down there, I waited. I wasn't going to just charge into there. I was waiting for everybody to get down, and we get down there, and we make our way carefully to the cave because it is kind of like getting there. It's all like rocky and slippery, and the shore wasn't. It was either mush or rock, and the rock was slippery. And we get up to the cave entrance, and it's slippery and mossy and algae covered, and yeah, we start exploring this cave. I'm gonna let Aaron take over here.
Oh yeah, it was you walk in and you see how far. The first thing I do when I see a cave here in Arkansas the last 2 years is just I want to know how far back it goes. Right, I want to see, does the light shine all the way into the back? How far can I see? So I have my video camera and I point it way back in the little corner of the cave. And there's an opening that's probably about 2 to 3 feet tall, to where you'd have to get on your belly to go any further.
Yeah.
And you can also, as we were walking in, I was like, "Do you hear that?" I can't remember who I said that to, and there was like a bubbling sound, and there was water coming from underneath the cave. So that tells me, just from my experience of going into all the caves here in Arkansas, is that cave goes back a ways. There's lots of springs in this area that come out of these caves, and typically there can be a little river underneath there, and I bet you it goes back quite a ways if you were to go through that 2 to 3 feet.
And I'd say, in terms of the spots that you could walk on, I'd say that cave probably went back about to the point that we could get without getting on our belly and crawling in further. It was about 100 feet back, I'd say, at least.
I think that'd be fair.
And
Yep.
to give people a little perspective, the cave was kind of shaped like an oyster. Imagine an oyster
Yeah.
that's pinched
That's a good
open. So
description.
the mouth of the cave is I'd say it was about 30 feet high.
Really
and
wide.
then the further in you walk, the further back into the cave you walk, the roof narrows and
Mm-hmm.
it finally comes to a little point where there's a crawl space.
In those crawl spaces, like you said, if you really looked, you could see pretty far back there. And I was like, if you were hiding anything, like something you didn't want anybody to find, that's where you would tuck that stuff. Whatever it is you're looking for.
You kept calling it a robber's cave.
That's what you would call these things. I mean, back in the day, it was like these, especially like during the old like rum runners and all these things, like those natural places you would go and you would stash, whether it be liquor or whatever it was, money you stole from the bank. You never catch me, you see, never.
Right. Well, Bonnie,
Yeah.
Yeah, there are. In fact, War Eagle Cavern over in Arkansas near Beaver Lake, I've been in that cave, and they Bonnie and Clyde used to hide in there. They filmed movies inside this cave too, and so yeah, it is. I mean, it was like that.
Yeah,
it was similar.
I mean, that's a classic situation where, I mean, if you wanted, provided no one knew where that was, and if you wanted to hide out, that would be the place to be, man. Like,
I wouldn't want to be there at night. I know Eddie was looking for signs of, human, we were looking for signs of litter or trash or like human, footprints. And I'm thinking, God, that was a perfect spot. If you're a mountain lion, if you're a dog man, if you're a predator. I mean, I didn't want to get too close to the opening in the back of the cave because it was just the right size for a mountain lion to sneak through. And I know they're extremely rare, but you never know. And again, even if it's a dogman type creature who wants to get out of the rain or get out of the elements, I mean, there was nothing back there. I mean, it would make for the perfect spot for a beast to hide.
the lack of... Oh, go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of sign of humans being down there. I think we found a cigarette butt.
One cigarette butt.
And we found a few splashes from what looked like to be wax from a candle.
Yeah.
So maybe, there people had some candles or something down there at one point. But, yeah, no pop cans, no candy wrappers.
Yeah. Only one cigarette
no
butt.
trash of any kind.
Like, it is weird. It is interesting that there's not a lot of signs other than the rope.
I mean, because you'd think if it was a party spot for teens to go and hang out,
everywhere.
if it was like a lover's lane kind of place, you'd find pop cans, you'd find, cigarette cartons. There's nothing. I mean, I don't know. It was beautiful during the day. I would not want to be there at night.
It'd be very scary at night.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, and we're kind of skipping over this, but it's underneath a cemetery.
Yeah.
It's above us is coffins and graves and, it's not skeletons.
I was waiting for you to bring that up because you have your lovely drawing over there.
I did a drawing. This is what I do for a living, everybody. You can't see this, but I did. I'll put a little sketch up on the site too. But this is a pretty accurate depiction, a cross section of what the cave looked like, and we were legitimately underneath the cemetery,
Literally,
without exaggeration.
there were dead bodies above us.
If we were able to drill directly up above us, we would have popped out right in the cemetery, and with that kind of knowledge, part of me, and I don't want to go straight to the macabre, but part of me is like, man, you got candle wax in a cave underneath a cemetery.
Yeah.
People are definitely doing some sort of rituals here, and maybe they're well intended. Who knows? But the bottom line is, it's like,
Luckily, we didn't find any remains of those types of rituals either.
There weren't any.
No bones or anything
which
like that.
would lead me to light rituals at that point too, because whenever I've stumbled across ritualistic places that you had dark stuff happening, i.e. Sunnyland Sanitarium, there was always remnants of these rituals. There was bones and dried blood and things like that. But for this, there was literally it was like a national park. It was pristine except for one cigarette butt.
It was rock. It was water. It was moss. It was few splashes of candle wax. This is about all it was.
Yeah, one frog.
A frog.
Who's alive? Alive and well.
Yeah.
And you had water, the reflection of the water from the stream that was glistening off the roof of the cave. I mean, it was just so beautiful. And saw a big old wasp nest stuck to the top of the cave wall. And also there were those kind of mud cone shaped. What are they called?
The birds, mud daubers, right?
Something like that. Yeah, mud daubers. Something wren, pip wren, something like that. They make little mud nests.
Yeah, they were like little mud huts. Kind of remind me of what an Ewok would live in of some sort. On the side there.
Those were kind of stuck to the walls and stuck to the ceilings.
See some weird pug face looking Ewok pop his head out of one of those holes.
A tiny little one, like real small Ewok.
Yeah, tiniest Ewok.
But
guys,
get him, it's wicked.
High pitched voice. Yeah.
But regarding the Dogman, because that's what this show is really about.
Well, yeah.
Right.
So we were like, okay, there's nothing down here. This is cool. We got to find our way back up. So one by one we get up there. Pat goes up first, like a champ, I might add. Pat makes it up, and I'm kind of up there. I make it to the halfway point, and I kind of go off to the side, and I'm kind of sitting on a rock, and I'm waving Eddie. Eddie comes up. Aaron comes up. Aaron hands me the camera tripod, and I'm just, okay, I'm going to get video and some pictures of you guys going up the rope. This is going to be cool for the documentary we're going to make. And so I'm the last one up, and again, I have half the climb left to go, but I only have one hand really because I'm holding onto the camera tripod, and so I'm basically on my hands and knees at this point in time, and I have my hand tightly gripped onto the bottom of a tree branch. It was only about 1 inch in diameter. And I'm holding on to that as my support so I don't slip down the hill. And lo and behold, the old rotted tree that I was holding on to snaps off.
It says bye-bye.
Yeah, and I
cracks.
I'm watching this, and I'm like, oh, and you come up and you have this in your hand, and you're just, I was like, oh, he's going over. That's the thought that went through my head.
I think at this time, Eddie and I were off reading gravestones.
Yeah, you were at the top.
Paying attention.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and when it snapped off, the tree literally tumbled down the hill and fell over the side. I'll put it this way: I'd never been so close in my life to literally falling off of a cliff before. But when it snapped, I went down on my belly, and I kind of dug my fingernails and I dig my toes into the ground to kind of keep myself from sliding. And I managed to get a hold of the rope at that point in time. But I was nervous. I was kind of shaking and trembling. The adrenaline was going, and I cut my hand just a little bit, but made it up to the top. But when that snapped, I knew you guys up top were gonna be wondering what that was. So I hollered up, "I'm okay."
Yeah, we were scared to death. I heard a ruckus, and I'm like, "Oh God, he fell."
Yeah,
seeing you laying on the ground. Andy.
But we make it up to the top. We explore some of the graves. We're reading some of the names that we can on the headstones, and then just kind of again cattywampus, if you will, to the cemetery was the white farmhouse that the Dogman had been sighted three separate occasions. And at this point, we're wondering if anybody lives there because it's I don't know. It's in kind of bad shape, but it's not completely dilapidated. So we're kind of like, okay, somebody either lives there and doesn't take care of it, or it's abandoned and still standing. So we drive over there and park, and we're kind of doing okay, who's gonna go knock on the door and ask Farmer Brown if he's seen a Dogman? And Aaron volunteered.
I have no problem. I'm not shy. I'll talk to anybody just about any time. And then Eddie comes with me too, and we end up going up and looked in. The first thing I did was look in the front window, and saw that no one is obviously living here, but there was like a TV and a chair in there. So I'm thinking, well, I don't know, maybe it's a bachelor. I mean, I've lived in situations similar, so
tarp, right? TV, and some pizza rolls.
That's all I need, right?
You got a cooler to sit on with beer in it,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're thinking furniture when you're young and can't afford furniture. You don't have any, right? So we go up, and so we knock on the door anyway. We knock a couple times, and it's clearly no one's there. And then we end up making our way down the front of the porch, back around to the right, and kind of just do a perimeter search of the area and see what we can see. And there wasn't much to see in terms of Dogman, but there was, the house itself, though, had like a personality to it, because I just keep thinking of the one video that you made of that, and it just felt kind of like there was a heavy presence there, but that was if my intuition's kicking in, that's what I would say.
Yeah, and it just kind of had an eerie feeling to it, to stand. I mean, and then I got out and I did walk the perimeter of the house, and it was just kind of weird, assuming that was a true story of this husband and wife who saw this creature literally jump off the porch of that farmhouse to be standing in the very spot where a Dogman's been sighted, and the house is abandoned.
Yeah,
I had near a cemetery. I mean, I had chills.
I had that in the back of my head as I was. We kind of talked about it and I remember asking you how this all occurred as we were walking up, and you explained what you just did, and I had that in the back of my brain, and as I was walking around, I was like, maybe that was what gave me the heavy presence, was my own psychology, but it was a pretty, it was a pretty cool experience for sure.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was definitely a little cherry on top of what we had experienced with the cave and the graveyard and everything else, and then that abandoned house had a heaviness to it for sure.
And the cemetery across the street, right?
Man, yeah, there was definitely just the air was kind of thick.
Yeah.
And then that was that thing, and then we ended up going back to the to the national park and kind of finished off the night that way, just kind of revisiting some.
I'm just thinking, the dad part of the Paranormal Dads. We tuckered out. It was a long day. We meant to go exploring some other areas, but by the time we made it back to our, we actually have a base camp at a campsite in a state park, and we're not camping. Obviously, we're in our motel so we can rest our achy backs. But we went back there just to film our Facebook Live, walk through the forest a little bit. Eddie took us on a on a little jaunt that we weren't quite prepared for.
We've been going left this whole time, and at one point I'm like, let's go right. So we took a different trail, and it felt like the trail.
Yeah, I was part of the I vote on going that way, right?
Let's do something different, Let's just go a different way. And
right.
That trail was not connecting up to the one that we were familiar with.
Definitely wasn't.
And I'm not sure it was going to take us back to the general spot. You were saying it was going to kick us out to a whole different part of the park at some point.
It seemed like it might take us to where the tent camping part of the park is at.
But it
was going up and in no direction. And at one point I remember thinking, oh my, we are caught in a paranormal loop, right? Where we're gonna just keep walking in circles. Andy's wearing shorts.
I have shorts. Eddie has a tank top on, and it is quickly getting dark. The temperature is dropping. I mean,
it's getting cold.
By the time we left the forest, it was dark, and I'd say it was, I don't know, it was 45, maybe 50
chilly.
degrees. It was getting
chilly.
Cold. Yeah.
Steam was starting to rise off of the flashlights again, like the night before.
Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, yes, we're in a state park. Yes, there's campers, quarter mile away. But these search and rescue stories that you hear, that's how they start. People wandering out close to dark, unprepared, with not enough clothing. And I'm like, this is exactly what we're doing.
But these trails, we say trails, and people think, oh, you're on a trail. Yeah, this trail to the left of you, 5 feet, is a vertical drop of 100 feet.
Yeah.
To the bottom.
Very, very rocky, muddy. They weren't paved at all.
No. A lot of times,
sometimes they were hard to follow.
Yeah, the trail would go away for a while. You have to kind of rely on your sense to kind of figure out where you were. And these trails are, I would say, they're probably some of the most lower maintenance trails I've ever really gone on. Between, they're not paved, like you said. There's like maybe every 500 feet, maybe every 1,000 feet. There's an arrow.
Right, there's a marker. There were logs laying, and that's kind of where with lack of maintenance. There were logs laying over the trail, and typically around here, at least in the state parks in Arkansas, excuse me, those trails are relatively maintained. But every once in a while, you'll come across one like that has a log laying over the front of the trail, it's pretty common.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And those trails you're right, the sheer drop, and the trail was, I remember walking over to the edge a little bit because there's a little spot where you could walk out and looking down. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's a death fall.
I bet you there's a cave underneath here, guys. Let's go.
Get a rope.
Well, there you go. There's segment number 2 of our special long edition of the Paranormal Dads Dogman Expedition 2021. And it's a good little. I mean, what else do you want? You got rope rappelling, cave exploring under a cemetery, an abandoned farmhouse where a werewolf's been sighted. What else do you want?
Yeah.
Are you not entertained?
Well, I'd say so far, and a weird phantom mist that shows up, and I mean, we're getting some stuff here, and I feel like once again on these types of trips, on these types of investigations, there's an escalation that happens, and so I'm kind of eager for night 3.
Yeah,
which is tonight. Yeah.
All right, we'll update you in the next segment on what happens in part 3. Thanks for sticking with us.
Well, day 3, gentlemen. Night 3. Well, day 3/night 3.
Correct.
I just texted a friend Happy Friday.
Yeah.
An hour ago. I don't know what day it is, man.
Yeah.
I have no idea where we're at, what we're doing anymore.
It's a problem with being on the road.
You just don't even know what day it is. That was the feeling yesterday. Someone was like, "What time is it?" And I'm like, "It doesn't matter what time it is. Like, we have nowhere to be."
The sun is in the eastern quadrant.
Exactly.
It's like, who cares? It's day or it's night.
All I know is I missed my nap yesterday, so that's all right.
Yeah, I think we all did.
Yesterday we decided to.
No, you didn't miss your nap, Eddie. The thing, everyone, if you're listening, if you're listening, kind listeners,
I'm outed.
One thing you need to know about our good friend Eddie. Eddie goes 100 miles an hour. Eddie's the funny guy of the group.
All gas, no brakes.
He cracks jokes nonstop. And while we're driving, he'll be a mile, cracking jokes. He's on point. He's hyper. He's talkative. And then you look back like 5 seconds later, and he's asleep, out cold and snoring. There's been a couple times I had to elbow Aaron in the side, and I'm like, look at how the hell did he fall asleep that quickly?
Yeah, I look back as I'm driving, and yeah, he's knocked out. I mean, he's just sawing logs.
It's kind of similar to one of those wind-up toys. You pull the pull string, and then they have a number of catchphrases, and then when the string's done, the thing is silent. You got to pull Eddie's pull string to get him going again.
This is it, man. I'm a sprinter. Go 100 miles an hour wherever I'm going. The irony is, though, I'm late. I don't understand how that...
But no, on vacation time, we all get twisted around to know what time of day it is. But yesterday was an action-packed day. I mean... By the time we packed it in last night, we were walking back to the truck, and I was like, "What did we do today?" It seemed like
so much.
So let's start at the beginning. What was the first thing we did yesterday?
We recorded a day 2 podcast.
Technically, that is correct.
Gives me deja vu.
No, I installed an app on my phone, and Aaron, the intrepid Aaron here, is familiar with this app as well. I don't believe Andy or Pat have heard of this app, and maybe you, fine listener, have not heard of this app either. Randonautica. It's this adventuring kind of app. Aaron, am I doing that justice?
Yeah, I think so. I think as far as what I know about it is you enter your location into the app, and then within you choose a mile radius, and it'll give you a random point somewhere on the globe to go hiking to and have a little mini adventure if you want, or you could take a day adventure, and just depending on the miles you put into it.
So you can adjust the radius, like if you want to go on a 5-mile adventure or a 25-mile adventure?
Correct, yeah.
Opens up more possibilities of different places you could go.
Yeah, and it's certainly, I think, it does take into account accessibility for the most part. We ran into a thing yesterday, and
it was not accessible.
It was not accessible. It wasn't accessible in the sense of the legality of it all. It was accessible in the physical sense. They would not put that. They wouldn't put you on the face of a mountain, for example, or in the middle of the ocean, if you couldn't drive to it and then get to it on foot.
Yeah, if we really wanted to get there, we could have. I mean,
man, who hasn't climbed a fence in their life?
Right? Oh, I've totally done that. Right?
I know Pat hasn't.
But I mean, there's a paranormal component to the app, or so it goes, right?
Correct.
How does it work?
Correct.
Yeah, Aaron, you want to lead with that a little bit?
Yeah, I can get into that. So the app itself, the idea is you put your attentions out there into the world, or into the app, or as you're thinking about it, as you generate that point, and it will give you a point that is, like I said, an adventure. But there has been some paranormal sort of activities that have happened around the app, and points that it's given other people that they've reported, like taking them out to a place where someone was murdered, and I think they've even actually found bodies with this app.
From my understanding, there's been bodies found with this app.
That's my understanding as well.
There's been weird, like haunted locations. There's been just funky UFO sightings while using this app. And
yeah, I think we watched the same show about the app, maybe, because I remember that as well. Someone found a body out in the middle of nowhere, and then they reported it to the authorities and everything. And then there's another episode I saw of someone using this app where they found vehicles, and then as soon as they got to the vehicles out in the middle of the woods, which were in the middle of nowhere, they started hearing voices. They started hearing ghosts and different paranormal things happening. So
yeah, we figured we're out on vacation for this week and this weekend, and what better time to test this app out? So we decided to put in a fairly, moderate, and we didn't go crazy, search radius, and it took us maybe about 15 minutes away from our hotel, but it was definitely out, kind of tucked away in a little pocket, and sure enough, there was some creepy kind of sights. There was a couple of abandoned buildings that had just come up. All that was left was a chimney on one of them. Andy got some sweet photos, and they just had a weird overall, kind of a not nasty, but just an eerie vibe to it. And then we get up on a gate that's chained shut, and for us to go any further, we would have had to have jumped the fence, and I'd be lying.
Eddie was ready to go. Eddie's sense of adventure is second to none, but sometimes I almost feel like we need to put one of those toddler harnesses on him with a leash. Yeah. Like, where's Eddie? Put a bell on him. Where'd he go? Did he hop the fence?
This is Eddie's reasoning. It's like, okay, there's a fence with a huge chain around it, But it doesn't say no trespassing, so we should be good.
I was looking for.
Let's just do it.
I was looking for any no trespassing signs, and I didn't see any. And I'm like, what the heck?
If they want to get loosey goosey with the rules, then we'll hop the fence.
That's my only real drawback to it was like it was a pretty good distance to walk to the point, and the farm, from what I could see, the farmhouse or the house that was there had just a clear view of that gate, and I was like, someone could easily just start shooting at us.
And there were people out and about on a little 4-wheel vehicle, just one of those little I don't know what you call them, the little scout kind of
like a gator,
ATV kind of thing,
things, yeah,
like a gator thing.
But
But yeah, I was heavily debating just hopping the fence.
I'm not sure this is such a good idea.
Forgiveness over permission.
I think at one point I said, Eddie, you go that way, I'll go this way. They only can shoot one of us at a time, right? If there's only one gun.
I'll be in the truck making lunch.
Yeah. But we got within, I'd say, about, what would you say, maybe 1,000 feet of it, maybe?
Yeah, pretty close, and it looked like it ended in the middle of that field.
Yeah,
right?
like right by the watering hole area.
Yeah.
So we probably, Lord knows, or there was some pirate gold there. We'll never know.
Right, we could be rich beyond our wildest imagination.
Yeah, but we played it safe.
and then we could buy a pet dog man with all that money.
I want a pet dog man, but it was a fun app to try. Like, I would encourage people to use it. I will encourage them. And the better part here is don't go into areas that you believe to be private property or that you don't feel good about.
And you probably don't want to go alone either.
Don't go alone. That's a good piece of advice anytime. Like, even when you go, I would argue, even when you go for like a morning run in the park when it's dark outside, if you have a running buddy or a walking buddy, you might want to consider that. It's just, I don't know, anymore, safety in numbers. But yeah, it was a fun time. It was a fun little adventure. Just kind of randomly go somewhere and see where the app takes you, and yeah, but just adventure responsibly. And yeah, it was a super fun way to start the day. And then from that point, Andy, we went to a nature trail that was about an hour away.
Yeah, it ended up being about an hour away. We had a little bit of a hard time initially finding it, and I'm trying to pull up. It was Savannah Trail, correct?
Savannah and Pine Ridge Trail.
And that was near Proctor, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, oh gosh, we thought there was, our GPS was making a mistake. We got to Proctor, and then we couldn't figure out where the entrance was to get to the trail. And it was basically just a gravel road that was poorly marked. So we drive down this gravel road for a good 10 minutes or so. And then, gosh, it was almost like the gates of heaven opened up, because here's this big, huge arch, and it's beautifully,
Gorgeous.
Very well manicured. It was laid out really well. I think somebody put a lot of money. It was a private reserve, and somebody put a lot of money into it. You could tell.
I think it was Boeing, wasn't it, who sponsored it?
Well, they sponsored. I noticed they had like some signs posted, like information type signs, and the signs were provided by a grant from Boeing, I believe.
Yeah, J.T. Nichols was reserve.
Yeah.
Wildlife Reserve was the name of the place.
I mean, it was impeccably maintained, but we were the only people there, and it was essentially 3 separate trails that are interconnected with one another. The first stretch was kind of I don't know, like kind of brushland. It was a very steep climb, and of course when we first got there, there was a bunch of buzzards and turkey vultures circling above.
About 20 of them.
Tons of them, and there was a smell of decaying, rotting something. It was a rotting carcass of some kind, and a lot of reports of dogmen and Bigfoot and stuff are accompanied by weird smells. So we were kind of on high alert. We went into the area kind of with the mindset of being quiet. Usually we're cracking jokes and being funny and having a good time, but we thought, okay, let's be a little stealthy. So for the first 20, 30 minutes of the hike up it felt like a mountain. Up the mountain, we were pretty quiet.
We were quiet, and we tried to be quiet because it's autumn, essentially. A lot of crunchy leaves on the ground, so they kind of worked against us at some point when we got off the rocky trail. And I'm going to sneeze.
Gesundheit.
Eddie is allergic to rocky trails.
Podcasting, man. I'm allergic to rotting flesh. But very serene, and it's aptly named. It was the Savannah Trail, and it had a savanna, like you were saying, Andy, kind of a brushland, not very treed, a little bit treed. There's some canopy towards the top of the trail as we got down into like the basin area of the mountain, the bluff. But super, great. It was a very good feeling about it. I mean, it was just very peaceful and very calm, very quiet.
Yeah, I think we saw 3 people the entire time we were out there. One guy was at the front gate just kind of doing some weed eating and taking care of the place. And then we saw a couple at the very end as we're coming off the trail. They were sitting there having a little picnic. And we chatted with them a little bit. But, yeah, otherwise it was like we had the place to ourselves.
Yeah, nary a human there.
Came across a couple of deer once we made it to kind of the top of the ridge that we were walking up. A lot of fire damage up there, whether they be from lightning strikes or controlled burns that they do on that property. So that kind of made for some eerie photo opportunities as well. But the deer, they kept a pretty good distance around us. Once they kind of realized we were behind them, they kind of did an end around. They ended up going back around behind us. So that was kind of fun to watch.
They did, and as they came, that was towards the ends of the hike, right?
Right.
And as they came back around, I was trailing behind because I was getting video, capturing some video, and I was able to get a couple of them on camera as they were running by. But they were pretty deer. They were big. They were big.
They were real big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and once we were on the second trail, the second section, that was Pine Ridge.
Yep.
It was absolutely beautiful. It's like you go from this brushland, which kind of reminded me of like the Southwest desert in a way, kind of low-lying shrubs and stuff. And then it opens up into this gorgeous forest with more trees than you could count. It's lush, it's green, it's heavily shaded because there's so much foliage. And so many pine needles on the ground, it almost provided extra cushion. Felt like you were walking on a cloud.
Oh, man.
And but we're in there. We're the only people there. It is whisper quiet. I mean, there is nothing. There is nobody for miles. It felt like, and we keep looking left and looking right. It wasn't really eerie. It was just beautiful. But I'm thinking, certainly at night, prime Dogman territory. He has deer to snack on. Mile or two away on that farm that we saw, there's cows galore for a midnight snack.
We did pass by that one cow that was just mutilated.
Yeah, disemboweled or something.
No other way to describe it. I have never seen a dead cow on ranchers' land.
And that's the weird thing. It was just sitting out there, and you can tell it's been there for quite some time. I'm kind of surprised it hadn't been
Several
cleaned
days,
up.
at least.
Right.
Well, because we're from Nebraska, but I know absolutely nothing about farming. But I would think if a farmer had a dead cow on the property, he would dispose of it pretty quickly because you leave it out there, you're inviting in coyotes and other scavengers, right?
No doubt about it.
And then they're going to get hungry for more cows, right?
Right.
You're inviting more trouble by leaving that around than you are by just carting it off.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it was just out there, just rotting away.
Yeah, it was unusual. I mean, you hear about the cattle mutilations that happen and just randomly, like on Skinwalker Ranch, etc. And you're just wondering, how did that cow? The thoughts that go through my mind when I see a dead cow is, why? How did it get there? What was the process in which it died? So I don't know. Those questions are still unanswered. Who knows?
But like you were saying, Andy, the prime habitat. It seemed like you have water.
Yeah.
You have decent coverage, and you have open fields to be able to find and come after food. Yeah. Also, getting into the topography, it was, like you said, just breathtaking. Just this change of tree canopy, and there's mushrooms everywhere, and there was these great rocks, and it just had this magical kind of feel to the whole area.
Yeah, and as the sun was hitting the trees, as a little lower in the sky now that it's fall, it was lighting up that they were glowing, basically. Some of the leaves were glowing, and the light was streaming through, and there's a little bit of atmospheric not perspective, but a little bit of atmosphere in the tree canopy as we were walking underneath it. Just made for a really kind of serene, beautiful, golden walk.
Oh, it was great. And so it takes you to a whole different world, certainly, but no real sense. We played some coyote howl or some coyote sounds, wolf howls. Yep. We tried to kind of see if we could kind of provoke anything. Andy we did some tree knocking, more of a Sasquatch kind of thing, but just trying to see what would be out there. and really just kind of a just quiet thing, honestly. And but a very, very atmospheric and very cool reserve.
Yeah. So after that, we kind of came back home.
Yep.
To the home base here at the hotel and
recharged.
regrouped and had some dinner and got ready for our final excursion, which was another trail we found not too terribly far from our hotel.
Again, about 15, 20 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, and it was, I believe it was actually put together as part of a Boy Scout project, like an Eagle Scout project. A fairly short trail. It was maybe like an hour. Yeah. No, not an hour, a mile all the way around. But it was very well laid out. They had several different pavilion type places where you could go. They had picnic benches and places you could go sit. They had some overlooks for a lake that was nearby. But we got there well after dark. Again, nobody there. So we had the place to ourselves. A lot of waterfowl moving about in the dark, so you could hear them.
Geese sound creepy at night.
They do, yeah. Especially when they get into, like, there were a lot of reeds and things like that around, and they'd go splashing into those and just make all kinds of noise. So that was kind of an interesting thing to go in there and check out. There were we did hear some coyotes.
Yes, that was a super active.
Yeah, and they got really loud. I think there was also a highway not too terribly far from it, and I think the coyotes were probably on the other side of the highway, so I don't think they were ever really close to us. But still, when you're out there stumbling around in the dark, it was a good thing to hear.
Yeah, it was, and one of the immediate things I noticed was again a distinct smell as soon as we got out of the truck. Right?
I think it's still on us.
Right? Yeah. When we left, it felt like it was still in the truck too. Like, yeah. I mean, we were still smelling it, but it was just like decaying smell again. And I don't know if that was from the power plant that was nearby, if it was.
Yeah, there was a plant not terribly far away, and it's very possible that smell could have been coming from a plant. Maybe it was a sulfurish type of a smell. I'm not sure.
Like rotten. It was like gym shoes is what it kind of reminded me of. Right?
But then there was a large lake right there, so I mean the chances of there being a dead fish washed up on the side,
true.
But I feel like we were there during the right time of day. I have pulled up, it's basically a pie chart from the North American Dogman Project website, which is, I would encourage you to go check this out if you're interested in some facts and research and evidence. And it's a pie chart that breaks down the Dogman sightings per time of day, per season, per occupation, like what kind of people see them. And now we were at this place last night. I'm trying to think what time we got there. Was it 8 o'clock-ish maybe?
About 8 o'clock. We left about 11.
See, we were there during about the right time because according to this chart, between 9 p.m. and midnight is when 1/3 of all Dogman sightings take place. 33% are right in that window. 21% take place from midnight to 3 a.m. So right there, that's half the pie chart is, essentially from 9 o'clock at night till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But, a good chunk are seen also right around sunset. Another good chunk are seen between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. So kind of interesting. But, again, I don't know if like you said, the nearby highway, that could be a deterrent for a creature like Dogman. I don't know, or is it a plus? Does it kind of mask his footsteps a little bit if he's trying to sneak up on a prey?
Well, you never know. That site that we investigated over by the cemetery, there was a very active highway that went between the two places where the Dogman sightings were reported. There's the house on one side of the highway, the cemetery on the other, and right down the middle was a very, very active highway. We were there for a good, hour or two, couple hours maybe, and trucks and cars nonstop up and down that highway. So it was actually kind of amazing that a Dogman would be sighted so frequently in such a busy place, but then again, you got more people going through. There are more witnesses to see anything that might be about.
Dogmen don't care. He's just like, you know what I mean? Like, I am apex predator.
Yeah, yeah. You don't worry about much.
Right.
I do wonder too if highways do provide a source of food, because you have roadkill, and then roadkill attracts other animals that are busy looking and trying to eat, and then you're like, well, I'm going to now eat you. So it's like if you have a coyote or a pack of them eating on something that got hit by a car, and then a wolfman rolls up, he has 3 coyotes he gets to eat. You know, so I wonder sometimes if those corridors aren't almost attractors for some of these things, because they produce. I mean, it's a conduit to food, I think, sometimes.
Well, and speaking of vehicles, here's another interesting thing I pulled up from the website. It's a chart that is sightings per occupation. 22% of people who have a dogman encounter are police sightings.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it's police driving up and down highways, driving up and down freeways and interstates, and they see these things along the side of the road, you know.
Yeah.
They're trained observers, you know, so they're looking left, they're looking right for any suspicious activity. So that's kind of interesting. There's a lot of dogman sightings on the road. You don't technically need to be a mile back in the woods to see these, you know.
Right.
If the wind blows just right and the luck is in your favor, you might see one.
Yeah.
And then in terms of military sightings, 11%. People who see these things are in the military. The remaining 67% are civilians, such as us. You know, but again, you know, during, I think being here during the fall is one of the best times that we could come in search of the dogman. Another pie chart here, 22% of all sightings take place in the fall. In the fall season, which is second place only to summer. Summer is when 44% of sightings take place.
Yeah.
And then a tie for third place is spring and winter at 17% each, respectively. So, you know, they're seeing it in all seasons. I don't know. There's a lot of speculation in the Bigfoot community of, are Bigfoot, you know, do they migrate? Do they move into different warmer territories in the winter? I don't know. I don't know if Dogman operates the same. I don't know if they live in caves such as the one we were in a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I think it's pretty cool that website breaks it down and has some statistics like that.
Yeah, that's real interesting. Those statistics probably come from the sightings, and someone probably pulled that information from those eyewitness reports, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, it seems like they have regional directors that people report to. You know, they have it broken down by Midwest, East Coast, West Coast, Southern states.
Kind of like the BFRO.
Exactly. It's the Dogman equivalent of the BFRO. So they have a main dude who takes the sightings and takes down those key figures such as season, time, date, your occupation, things like that. So
We did notice that persistent smell yesterday too, again at that other trail, the Boy Scout trail, particularly strong at one point, just a really decaying, kind of rotting, stinky stink, you know, a smelly smell that smelled smelly.
It was smelly.
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny how that was kind of there, but beautiful night again. I mean, it was a harvest moon, wasn't it? A blood moon, whatever. It looked like red, didn't it, coming out?
Yeah, we were subjected to some awesome looking moonrises, and it was a great time to be out looking at the moon when we were here.
I couldn't have picked a better time.
Yeah.
No, not. Yeah, you definitely couldn't have picked a better time. And it just gave this overall, again, the atmosphere of the experience for myself, at least, was, I mean, I had goosebumps almost the whole time. I don't think my goosebumps stopped goosebumping.
your goosebumps had goosebumps.
Right?
Yeah.
But the coyotes were cool last night, too.
Yeah.
I mean,
They chimed right in. You were doing a Facebook Live event. You could probably, if you go to Andy's Facebook page, Psychic Andy Myers, and look at his most recent couple of videos. I forget which one it might have been, but you can hear the coyotes perk up, and they just kind of go for a solid maybe minute or two, and then they die down. But,
Yeah, they obviously were having a dispute amongst the pack, or they came across something, right? I mean, there was something. They were loud, and they were obviously going after or trying to fend something off. It seemed like.
Yeah.
you know, and there's a lot of coyote activity associated with Dogman, which you wouldn't think those two, you know, creatures overlapped or intersect. But in fact, I listened to one particular eyewitness podcast who had numerous, I'm talking like a half dozen reports of a upright large Dogman that was nearby a residential neighborhood, and it was continuously sighted with a pack of coyotes. Like the coyotes were its henchmen. Like the Dogman was the alpha. He was the kingpin, and the other guys were just doing his dirty work because they were like surrounding him, like they were protecting him at times.
He was Scar, and they were the hyena.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Disney reference. Love it. Love it.
So anybody have any final thoughts before we put a nail in this one? I think
I just think this was an amazing trip. Shy of just having a direct Dogman encounter, this was an amazing trip. I mean, everything from seeing the magic of these glowworms on the ground to this, and I'm still sticking by my guns until we figure out otherwise, Aaron. So that paranormal mist that makes no sense to me on that video. I mean, it just behaves like unlike anything I've seen when it comes to vapor or mist or anything like that.
Yeah, it definitely acts weird for sure.
It acts so weird. And then just like we said, just the time spent with good, close, my best friends, hunting for, mysteries and monsters in the dark, and with this backdrop of this gorgeous scenery with the moon and the stars and the planets. And I mean, you could really not have asked for a better time. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, and I just, again, thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. I appreciate it, guys. It's been a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed like every second of it. So if you ever get this chance to go along with the Paranormal Dads on an expedition like I did, take them up on it.
Aaron, it was an absolute pleasure having you with us. Thank you very much for carting us around all over.
Oh, no problem.
Southwestern Arkansas and southeast Oklahoma. It was a great time.
Yeah, thank you. It was great to be here.
And my takeaway was just the magic of being out in nature. The fun of being with your buds, and my advice to anybody listening. There's nothing. We didn't do anything special on this trip. It's not like we have fancy equipment that nobody else has. We were just out there with flashlights and our intuition, having a good time. You're fully capable of planning your own trip like this, not just to search for Dogman, not just to search for Bigfoot, whatever you want to search for. If you want to search for glowworms,
yeah.
If you just want to get out in nature and see what you see, but the point is, be out there, make some memories, schedule a trip, stay curious. Look for the unknown. I feel like some people are fearful of unknown events and mysteries, and some people run towards them. We're the kind of people who run towards them, and so you get out there and make some memories you'll never forget. And I certainly did this trip. So thanks for being a part of that, guys. This trip means a lot to me. I'll never forget it.
How about you, Pat?
I just like I said, I just appreciate being with you guys, being out, just having some fun and doing some things that I don't get to do a lot. Just kind of some creepy investigations, and especially this time around Halloween, it was just a lot of fun. It kind of takes you back to when you were a kid and did more of this type of thing, and really enjoyed myself, and great to have you guys along with us.
Dude, we discovered a cave under a graveyard.
We did.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's the grave cave.
It's a grave cave.
Grave
It's a grave cave.
Rhymes are fun.
Hey, be sure to check out our social media links, Paranormal Dads at Facebook, and Paranormal Dads on Twitter, and Paranormal Dads on Instagram. We are also back up on YouTube as well. You can listen to some of our older episodes. We're kind of doling those out slowly. So we started with episode number 1, so you can get some of the classic episodes of Paranormal Dads out on our YouTube channel. So just search for Paranormal Dads and you'll find us.
And by the time this is released, we'll have a lot of some of our footage, videos, pictures available on our social media sites. And in the meantime, this may take a few months, so bear with us, but we're going to slap together a little mini documentary of all of our shenanigans on the Dogman trip. So we'll announce to the whole world when that's finally available, and hopefully you enjoy that as well.
And stay tuned to the YouTube channel as well, because we do have some micro video content that we'll be putting up on that site as well from this trip, and other things that we've been up to as well, other new adventures as we go and do these things more and more. Also, big thanks to the good folks over at freesounds.org for any sound effects you may have heard, and to premiumbeat.com for our amazing theme tunes. And a super thanks to Aaron for being our videographer this time.
I was going to say, so I listened when you guys did your first podcast, and you had glow sticks was referenced a lot, right?
Glow sticks.
So, and we found glow worms.
Yes.
Glow worms.
I was thinking about that. The glow sticks thing is kind of stepped aside for the past few episodes. Early on we referenced it quite a bit.
yeah.
You have to go back and
It
listen to those
was
early
fun.
episodes to get the joke. But
I think in lieu of the glow stick reference, many of our regular listeners will know that if you listen past the final theme music, we have blooper outtakes from every single episode. And I think those are, if you really want to see what goes on before and after the podcast and some of the outtakes and mistakes that we make, just listen past the music. It'll be our little treat to you. So with that, guys, I don't know. Can we get a little wolf howl to put a bow on this episode? I think it's appropriate.
All at once. Ready? 3, 2.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
bye.
Not the red, yellow, red leather.
Lion face?
Lion face, lemon face.
Lemon face. Lion face? Lemon face.
Andy, I lost you, Olsen.
My lemon face is so lemony.
He looks constipated. What was that?
What was that?
Was that your phone?
No, man. It was like a drill.
I think
It sounded like music coming from somewhere.
It was sounded like a drill. I think you might be right.
it seems like we're having a hard time dialing it in today. I don't know.
Is it me?
No, it's me.
It's not you.
It's not. Yeah, exactly.
It's not you. It's me.